So, almost all criminal defendants are entitled to what Andreas Shackelford did after he was arrested. And by that, I mean post bail. Defendants promise to show up for court dates, and they forfeit very expensive bonds if they do not. They also get slapped with an arrest warrant, and usually those twin incentives are enough to make sure they show up for trial. But Shackelford is not the first to show up in court as promised, only to have second thoughts. Sometimes it happens in dramatic fashion, like with this Detroit carjacker who really wanted out of that courtroom and fast. Didn't look like it went over so well for him, though. But wow, what a quick move. Look at that. Then there was the casual guy. Look at that. Just, not even noticed. Got out of his chair, strolled out of the courtroom and right out of the courthouse, then sprinting down the street. Well, there he went. That was easy. No one even turned and batted an eye. But there was this man on trial in Arkansas for aggravated assault and felony possession of a firearm, and turns out he was picked up the very next day. So didn't get too far, even though he did that day. Staircases can also be an opportunity, but also an obstacle for defendants hoping to beat a hasty retreat. This man who'd already been convicted of burglary, nailed the leap and could not quite stick the landing. Whoosh, right over. Yikes. Don't know how that would have felt. And then in Utah, a probation violator escaped from a courtroom with nobody noticing, nobody even trying to stop him, really. And check out the flip that he did over the hallway. Whoa! Ouch. Onto the floor below, but that is as far as he got. That would have been a real landing. Look at that. Ooh, man. About that sheriff there trying to actually catch the fall. That was something else. Here he goes, out. And then I don't know what he was thinking, about the uneven bars or something over the railing. And then those guys below trying to break the fall. Defendants who run, they are the bread and butter of my next guest. Chuck Jordan is the president of the National Association of Fugitive Recovery Agents, otherwise known as bounty hunters. I'm also pleased to welcome criminal defense attorney Charlie Rickers. Charlie, I want to start with you just because we had such a big development. Here we were thinking we were going to cover a manhunt tonight. Little did we know we were going to cover a man captured tonight, which is great news, But at the same time, I'm so curious about this process. What will Andreas Shackelford face now that he has been caught? He has been on the lam. There have got to be sort of a bucket of other charges that he's going to face, and I'm sure that there won't be a bond offered this time.
Yeah, Ashleigh, you're right. He's going to have a bond forfeited. He will not have an opportunity to get out of jail after this fleeing attempt. And in addition to that, in Ohio, and I'm assuming Alabama is the same, he was facing a felony. He absconded while out on bond and failed to appear in court. So he will be facing a new felony charge for failing to appear in court.
So, Chuck, tell me a little bit about your business. When you hear the news that a guy just takes off from a courthouse and is on the lam, how much of the manhunt is the officials, the sheriffs, and maybe even the FBI, and how much of it comes to you guys?
Well, in the United States, it only comes to us if there's a bail bond company involved. The vast majority of people that go on the run, they do it, long before the court date. Most of them don't show up for court and then go on the run in the middle of a proceeding or, while they're waiting for something. That's more of an impulsive kind of move. So, I think in this situation, the U.S. Marshals Task Force, they acted quickly. They really didn't give this guy any space, any opportunity to plan. And that's why they caught him so quickly, and they didn't catch him all that far away. They caught him in Birmingham at that motel. So, had they, had it gone through the whole bureaucracy, and let it sit for a while, this guy would have had an opportunity to make more plans and get further away and make the situation more difficult. So, hats off to the U.S. Marshals Task Force for acting so quickly and getting the job done.
Speaking of the job, just before I let you go on that note, we don't have the video back yet. It's just only a couple hours old, this capture. So my assumption is there may be body cam, maybe even a really intrepid news crew caught some of this. But from your vast history of seeing these things go down, what do you think actually went down catching him at a motel?
Well, I'm sure they went in hot, prepared to deal with, any type of situation they might encounter. The man's, on trial for murder. They don't know if maybe he's planning on, using a weapon or, suicide by cop, or any type of situation could occur. So I'm sure they went in there, in a tactical fashion. So I imagine it was a bit of a sight to see, for the other guests there at the motel.
Oh, I would imagine, right? That's pretty traumatic. Charlie, I just don't get it. I don't understand why a guy would show up for his trial if this was the intention. Is there something I'm missing about this strategy? I mean, you've seen a courtroom or two. What am I missing? Charlie, can you hear me?
I think that it was...
Wait, I can hear
you
There's a
now.
question for Charlie because he's the lawyer, but did you hear the question? I can repeat it. I know your IFB was giving you
I did not, Ashleigh.
some gremlins.
Please, just cut back in.
Yeah, here's the question. I don't understand why the guy showed up. Like, this is mystifying to me. Is there a strategy here that I'm missing? Like, you have a better shot at getting a little bit of leeway, or getting a lead start, or what do you make of that?
When you're on the doorstep of trial and when you walk in the courtroom, it can be some of the scariest times of a person's life, especially someone who is facing an accusation of murder, facing life in prison. So it could have just been the fact that he saw the room, started to actually get closer to the potential consequences of going to prison for life, and couldn't get over his own anxiety. But there's certainly no strategy in walking into a courtroom and absconding. Good criminal defense lawyers tell clients all the time that they face anyone accused of a crime faces an uphill battle, and if you flee at any point early in the process or after you've already been in the courtroom, you're just making the hill that you have to climb even steeper. So a bad strategy if it was a strategy.
Well, listen, the $100,000 bond is nothing to sneeze at. Chuck, what happens there? Because I don't think this guy has $100,000, and he's certainly not going to have a lot of working years ahead of him if he's convicted of this crime. So what happens? Is that bail bondsman just out $100,000?
Right. I mean, if it was a bail bond company that posted the bond, because, it could have been a cash or a property. At this point, I don't know. But
no, it was.
If it was a bail bond company.
It was a bail bondsman.
Yeah, I would imagine that they would challenge any kind of forfeiture. I mean, the fact that he's back in custody so quickly, is definitely in favor of the bail bond company getting off that bond and not actually having to pay that forfeiture. So I imagine that the bail bond company and their attorney would be, filing a motion to get off that bond once he's back in custody. And I would be surprised if they ended up forfeiting it. I mean, if it was a cash bond and the defendant posted it himself, given the circumstances, I could see that where they might forfeit it. But the bail bond company obviously, did their part, and he did end up back in custody, which was the whole idea. So I don't think that they will forfeit that bond.
So what's weird then, Charlie? Maybe you can help viewers out who are thinking, well, then what's the incentive not to skip, right? Because, Shackelford didn't put the money up. He's not losing the money. Why on earth would there be any incentive for someone out on bond to skip? Because it's not really going to affect them, is it? It's just going to affect the bail bondsman. It looks like the bail bondsman is going to get his money back too.
Well, in this case, even if he were convicted, and that's not a foregone conclusion, although it might be likely, I have no idea what the evidence might show. But he's going to face a new charge. So if, for example, he was up for parole after 15 or 20 years of serving in prison, this new charge, which is failure to appear in court, is going to tack on time. And a judge has discretion for how much time they will tack on to any underlying offense that he gets convicted of. So any time behind bars now is going to be increased because of this stupid decision. And in addition to that, any juror... Go ahead, Ashleigh, I apologize.
No, you go ahead.
Any juror, they're admonished. They're told by the court, don't go on social media, don't watch TV. But at times we know that certain people act as people do. They look at social media, they watch the news. I'm assuming that if this is national news, this is also all over the news in Decanter, Alabama. So people are going to look at this and they're going to think, man, if this guy's innocent, why'd he flee? So it's not going to help his cause in the trial that's upcoming.
Yeah, I think he's in a world of trouble, and what lies ahead is a world of hurt. That murder was terrible. I don't know the weight of the evidence. I certainly don't know, the case, the prosecutor's case, but I do know that's a consciousness of guilt when you take off like that sometimes. Chuck Jordan, Charlie Rickers, thanks a lot. Nice to meet you guys. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.